Ham, the father of the black people and his biblical implications. A name whispered in hushed tones, shrouded in controversy, and often twisted to justify centuries of oppression. Ham, the son of Noah, carries a legacy that reverberates through history, a legacy intricately intertwined with the story of the black people. But how much of what we think we know about Ham is true? How has his story been manipulated and misinterpreted to serve agendas of power and prejudice? The origin of Ham. Ham, Noah's second-born son, entered a world poised on the brink of annihilation. His father, a man of unwavering faith, had been divinely chosen to rescue humanity from the looming deluge. As Noah tirelessly labored to construct the ark, Ham matured under the weight of this sacred mission, a destiny that would forever alter the course of history. Once the floodwaters receded, Noah's family emerged as the sole survivors, inheriting a world cleansed and renewed. Ham, along with his brothers Shem and Japheth, shouldered the heavy responsibility of repopulating the earth. The desolate plains and barren mountains stood as stark reminders of the catastrophe, yet also as a blank canvas upon which to paint a new beginning. In this narrative of renewal, Ham stands out as a complex and intriguing figure. He was a man of contrasting qualities, blessed with an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and an ambition that sometimes bordered on defiance. While his brothers readily embraced their predetermined roles with an almost ethereal devotion, Ham often dared to question, explore, and push the boundaries of the revitalized world. As Noah's family established themselves in the fertile post-Diluvian lands, Ham naturally became an intrepid explorer. He led expeditions into uncharted territories, mapping unfamiliar landscapes, discovering hidden resources, and unlocking new possibilities. His keen intellect and fearless nature made him a natural leader among Noah's descendants, who looked to him for guidance and inspiration. However, Ham's boldness frequently put him at odds with the established traditions and expectations of his father. Noah, the revered patriarch who had shepherded humanity through the cataclysm, expected unquestioning obedience. Ham, on the other hand, seemed perpetually driven to challenge that authority, seeking his own path in a world still brimming with the unknown. An undercurrent of tension silently grew between father and son, like a storm gathering force on the horizon. Ham, with his inherent inquisitiveness, often found himself disagreeing with Noah's pronouncements. He perceived opportunities where his father saw only dangers, and envisioned possibilities where Noah preached caution. This intricate and often fraught familial dynamic laid the foundation for the pivotal events that would irrevocably alter the fate of Ham and his lineage. Despite the simmering tensions, Ham's role in establishing the first post-flood communities proved invaluable. His deep knowledge of the land and his natural ability to organize and inspire people were crucial assets. Under his guidance, fields were cultivated, livestock domesticated, and the earliest cities began to take form. Life, nearly extinguished by the deluge, blossomed anew under his leadership. However, as populations expanded and communities grew more complex, the chasm between Ham and his kin widened. His penchant for exploration and innovation clashed with the traditionalism of Noah and his brothers. This divergence of perspectives would eventually erupt, leading to a pivotal incident that would shake the very foundations of their family and leave an enduring mark on the tapestry of human history. However, one question remains unanswered. Among all of Noah's sons, why was it only Ham and his descendants who had to bear the curse? What really happened in that fateful tent that night when Noah was drunk? And did Ham's actions truly deserve such severe punishment? let's uncover the truth behind one of the Bible's most controversial mysteries. Before that, make sure you like the video, subscribe so you don't miss any interesting stories in the Bible. Now we will explore the incident of Noah's shame. The day that would forever alter Ham's destiny dawned like any other in the post-flood world. The sun rose over the verdant fields, carefully cultivated by Noah's family. The vineyards, a source of particular pride for Noah, who had become a skilled vintner in the years since the Great Deluge, basked in the warm morning light. Later that day, after a particularly abundant harvest, Noah decided to indulge in a celebratory drink. The patriarch, weary yet satisfied with the fruits of his labor, retired to his tent to savor the wine he had produced. Unbeknownst to him, this new batch, fermented in a world purified by the floodwaters, possessed an unusual potency. Unaccustomed to the strength of the drink, Noah quickly succumbed to a deep and unrestrained slumber. Overcome by fatigue and the effects of the alcohol, his body lay shamefully exposed inside the tent. It was in this vulnerable state that Ham, entering to discuss pressing matters, stumbled upon his father. Ham's initial shock at seeing his father in such a compromising position quickly gave way to a morbid curiosity. Instead of reacting with the reverence and discretion expected of a son, his gaze lingered on Noah's exposed form. A sardonic smile twisted his lips, betraying a mixture of disdain and a perverse sense of amusement. Exiting the tent, Ham could not contain his sharp tongue. He sought out his brothers, Shem and Japheth, in the fields, and with words dripping with mockery and disrespect, recounted in graphic detail the embarrassing state in which he had found their father. His behavior revealed a simmering rebellion, a flagrant violation of the deeply ingrained codes of honor and filial piety so central to their patriarchal society. Shem and Japheth, horrified by their brother's crassness, reacted with immediate and instinctive reverence. They retrieved a cloak and, walking backward into Noah's tent, carefully covered their father without allowing their own eyes to gaze upon his nakedness. This act of unwavering filial piety stood in stark contrast to Ham's behavior, creating a profound moral gulf between the brothers, a divide that would echo through generations. When Noah eventually awoke from his drunken stupor and learned of Ham's transgression, his fury was a fearsome thing to behold. The patriarch, still feeling the lingering effects of the wine, yet burning with righteous anger, summoned his sons before him. A palpable tension filled the air, an ominous shift that even the animals seemed to sense. In a voice that seemed to carry the weight of ages, Noah pronounced his judgment. However, it was not Ham who directly received the brunt of his father's wrath. Instead, Noah declared, "Cursed be Canaan, may he be the lowest of slaves to his brothers." And so Canaan, son of Ham, found himself burdened with a generational curse. Noah's decision to punish Canaan rather than Ham directly has been a source of ongoing debate and conjecture. Some scholars suggest it stems from an ancient belief that cursing a child served as a more potent punishment for the parent. Others propose that Noah saw within Canaan the same potential for transgression that he had witnessed in Ham. Regardless of the reasons, the consequences of this curse were profound and far-reaching. According to the biblical narrative, Canaan's descendants were destined for a life of servitude and subjugation under the descendants of Shem and Japheth. This prophecy would later find expression in the numerous conflicts between the Israelites, descendants of Shem, and the Canaanites, descendants of Ham. The curse on Canaan went beyond mere retribution for Ham's actions. It represented a forceful reaffirmation of the divinely ordained hierarchical order that Noah held sacred. By declaring Canaan to be the lowest of slaves, Noah effectively condemned an entire bloodline to a position of perpetual subservience in the newly established world. It is essential to note that Noah's curse was not a decree of eternal damnation. Throughout the Bible, there are instances of Canaanites finding redemption and acceptance within the Israelite community. The story of Rahab, a Canaanite woman praised for her faith who becomes an ancestor of Jesus Christ, exemplifies this. Her narrative suggests that while the curse carried significant weight, it was not absolute or unbreakable. The curse placed on Canaan has significant implications for the unfolding of biblical history. When the Israelites, led by Joshua, enter the Promised Land, they find the Canaanites as their primary adversaries. The conquest of Canaan by the Israelites is often interpreted as a fulfillment of Noah's curse, with Shem's descendants subjugating those of Ham. Before we continue, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for subscribing. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and sharing these videos. As a thank you for liking, commenting, and sharing, we are committed to providing you with top-notch videos packed with hidden knowledge from various sources. Remember, this channel explores not only the Bible, but also encompasses divine stories from traditions like the Ethiopian Bible and the Apocrypha. Thank you. Ham and his descendants. Few names resonate throughout history with the same power as that of Ham, son of Noah. As the flood waters receded and the ark settled upon the mountains of Ararat, Ham emerged as a central figure in the task of repopulating the world. His role within the biblical narrative is both crucial and contentious, yet the undeniable impact of his lineage on the course of human civilization cannot be ignored. Ham fathered 4 sons: Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Each of these sons would become the progenitor of a powerful nation, their bloodlines extending across continents and influencing the fates of entire peoples. The stories of these 4 brothers and their descendants are interwoven with the narratives of kings, prophets, and empires, creating a rich and complex tapestry of human relationships that would endure for millennia. Cush, the eldest son, is often associated with the land south of Egypt, known to the Greeks as Ethiopia. Cush's descendants spread throughout the African continent, establishing mighty kingdoms and cultivating diverse cultures. They were recognized for their dark skin, their formidable skills as warriors, and their customs that were considered exotic by outsiders. The land of Cush, mentioned multiple times in the Bible, became synonymous with mystery and wealth. A kingdom renowned for its abundance of gold and spices, attracting merchants from distant lands. Mizraim, the second son, is widely recognized as the patriarch of the Egyptians. His name, in fact, became synonymous with Egypt in various Semitic languages. Mizraim's descendants established one of the most enduring and influential civilizations in human history. The pyramids, the pharaohs, and the hieroglyphics, all iconic symbols of ancient Egyptian culture, stand as lasting monuments to the legacy of Mizraim and his people. Put, the third son, remains a somewhat enigmatic figure within the biblical account. Some scholars connect his descendants to the Libyans or the inhabitants of North Africa's coastal regions, though playing a less prominent role in the scriptures than his brothers. Put's lineage undoubtedly contributed to the vibrant cultural mosaic that flourished along the Mediterranean coast of Africa. Canaan, the youngest, became the patriarch of the Canaanites, the people who inhabited the territory destined to be known as the Promised Land. His descendants built powerful city-states and nurtured a sophisticated culture. Their fate, however, became intricately linked to that of the Israelites, culminating in a series of conflicts that would profoundly shape the course of biblical history. As generations passed, the descendants of Ham multiplied and spread, settling across vast territories in Africa and the Middle East. They founded empires, built magnificent cities, and developed groundbreaking technologies. From the fertile banks of the Nile to the shores of the Mediterranean, from the highlands of Ethiopia to the plains of Canaan, Ham's legacy flourished, giving rise to a myriad of distinct and powerful cultures. The influence of Ham's lineage in biblical history. Within the intricate narratives of the Bible, Ham's descendants emerge as crucial threads, their stories inextricably woven into the fabric of Israel's history, interwoven with tales of patriarchs, prophets, and kings. Although often cast as antagonists, their role in the sacred history is far more multifaceted than a simple dichotomy of good and evil. From the banks of the Nile to the hills of Canaan, the influence of the Hamitic people shaped pivotal events that define the course of biblical history. The Egyptians, descended from Mizraim, play a pivotal role in the Exodus saga, one of the most powerful and enduring narratives in the Judeo-Christian tradition. It was in Egypt that the Israelites found refuge during a devastating famine and grew from a single family into a nation. Their subsequent oppression by the pharaohs and miraculous liberation under the leadership of Moses form the very core of the Jewish people's national and spiritual identity. Egypt, in all its grandeur and brutality, becomes the backdrop against which God's power is dramatically displayed. The Ethiopians, tracing their ancestry back to Cush, also appear at key moments in the biblical narrative. The Queen of Sheba, frequently associated with Ethiopia, journeys to visit King Solomon, marveling at his wisdom and vast wealth. This interaction highlights not only Israel's prominence during Solomon's reign, but also suggests the existence of significant diplomatic and cultural ties between Israel and the Hamitic nations. Later, an Ethiopian eunuch plays a pivotal role in the early spread of Christianity. His baptism by the Apostle Philip, detailed in the Book of Acts. Perhaps the most complex and strained relationship between the Israelites and any of Ham's descendants is that with the Canaanites, descended from Ham's youngest son. As the inhabitants of the Promised Land, the Canaanites are often portrayed as adversaries to be conquered and displaced. However, the historical reality is much more nuanced. The Israelites and Canaanites engaged in warfare, but they also experienced periods of coexistence, trade, and even intermarriage. Canaanite culture profoundly influenced the everyday lives and religious practices of the Israelites, for better or worse, depending on the perspective of the biblical authors. The interactions between the Israelites and the Philistines, another group frequently linked to Ham's lineage, comprise a significant portion of the narratives surrounding the period of the Judges and the early monarchy. From the legendary clash between David and Goliath to the battles fought during the reigns of Saul and David, the conflict with the Philistines played a crucial role in shaping the Israelites' national identity. These encounters extended beyond the battlefield, encompassing cultural and technological exchanges, with the Israelites adopting and adapting elements of Philistine culture. The Hamitic nations also feature prominently in biblical prophecies. Egypt, particularly, appears frequently in the prophetic books, sometimes depicted as a menacing power, and at other times as a potential ally against larger threats like Assyria or Babylon. These prophetic utterances not only reflect the geopolitical landscape of the time, but also emphasize God's sovereignty over all nations, not just Israel. The consistent presence of the Hamitic people in the biblical narratives underscores the rich diversity of the ancient world and the complex web of international relations that existed. They are not merely the other against whom the Israelites define themselves. Rather, they are presented as vital actors in the unfolding drama of sacred history. Their actions and interactions with the Israelites provide essential context for understanding many of the pivotal events within the biblical narrative. Ultimately, the significant role played by Ham's descendants in biblical history points to the universalist vision at the heart of the scriptures. While the narrative often focuses on the lineage of Shem, traced through Abraham, the consistent and significant presence of the Hamitic people reminds us that God's plan encompasses all nations. From the creation story to the exodus from Egypt, from the reigns of David and Solomon to the pronouncements of the prophets, the story of Ham's descendants is interwoven with the story of Israel, and by extension, the overarching story of redemption that forms the core of the Bible. Ham's contribution to civilization. The descendants of Ham have left an undeniable mark on human history, making vital contributions to the development of civilization as we know it. From the fertile banks of the Nile to the highlands of Ethiopia, they built empires, erected enduring monuments, and innovated in ways that continue to shape our world. Their influence extends far beyond geographical boundaries, impacting fields as diverse as architecture, science, mathematics, and thought. The Egyptians, descendants of Mizraim, serve as a prime example of the Hamitic contribution to human civilization. Their culture, thriving for more than 3,000 years, left a legacy that continues to captivate and inspire. The pyramids of Giza, built as tombs for the pharaohs, stand as testaments to their architectural genius and grand vision. These colossal structures are not only aesthetically stunning, but also demonstrate a profound understanding of advanced mathematics and engineering. Beyond their mastery of architecture, the ancient Egyptians made remarkable advancements in a variety of scientific disciplines. Their hieroglyphic writing system, one of the earliest known, allowed them to record and transmit knowledge across generations. They devised a sophisticated calendar based on meticulous observations of the stars, a calendar that underpinned their agricultural practices and religious festivals. In the field of medicine, they pioneered surgical techniques and developed pharmaceutical treatments, many meticulously documented in medical papyri that survive to this day. The Kushites, tracing their ancestry to Kush, also made notable contributions to the advancement of civilization. The Kingdom of Kush, centered in what is now Sudan, cultivated a rich and unique culture that, at times, rivaled the splendor of Egypt. The Kushites were renowned for their advanced knowledge of metallurgy, particularly their skill in working with iron. They constructed their own impressive pyramids, though smaller and steeper than their Egyptian counterparts, and developed their own unique writing system known as Meroitic. In Ethiopia, a land often associated with Kush's descendants, a unique and vibrant civilization flourished, blending African, Semitic, and Christian influences. The Ethiopians developed their own distinct script, Ge'ez, still used today in the liturgical practices of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Ethiopian architecture, as exemplified by the breathtaking rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, reveals the remarkable ingenuity and artistry of its people. Ethiopia boasts a rich tradition of music, literature, and philosophy, each contributing significantly to the cultural heritage of humanity. The Canaanites, descended from Ham's youngest son, also left an enduring legacy on the world. They are credited with pioneering the development of the alphabet, a revolutionary innovation that transformed the way information was recorded and transmitted, making knowledge more accessible. The Canaanite city-states, strategically positioned, served as dynamic centers of trade and cultural exchange, connecting Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Aegean. Canaanite mythology, replete with gods and heroes, influenced the religious and literary traditions of many subsequent cultures. In the realm of technology, the Hamitic people made significant strides that advanced human progress. Faced with the challenges of an arid environment, the Egyptians developed sophisticated irrigation systems, enabling them to cultivate crops in the unforgiving desert. They also pioneered nautical technologies, constructing seaworthy vessels capable of long voyages, facilitating trade and cultural exchange across vast distances. The Cushites and Ethiopians, for their part, developed advanced mining and metalworking techniques, contributing to their economic prosperity and military might. The influence of Ham's descendants on philosophy and intellectual thought cannot be overstated. The Egyptian concept of ma'at, representing order, balance, and justice, had a profound impact on the development of ethical and philosophical thinking in the ancient world. Ethiopian wisdom traditions, preserved in texts like the Kebra Nagast, offer valuable insights into questions of governance, morality, and spirituality. The story of Ham's contributions to civilization is a testament to human innovation, creativity, and resilience. The Hamitic people did not merely adapt to challenging environments, they thrived, creating vibrant and complex cultures that left an enduring legacy. From their awe-inspiring monuments and groundbreaking scientific discoveries to their sophisticated writing systems and profound philosophical traditions, the impact of Ham's descendants continues to resonate throughout history. Their legacy serves as a powerful reminder that the story of human civilization is a global one, enriched by the contributions of peoples from every corner of the world. Historical distortions and misconceptions. Within the dusty confines of an ancient European university library, Professor Sarah Bennett meticulously examined stacks of aging manuscripts. Her attention focused on passages referencing Noah's son, Ham. Over centuries, the story of this biblical figure has been distorted and misinterpreted, leading to profound misunderstandings with devastating consequences for millions. Professor Bennett's mission is to untangle this web of misinterpretations and illuminate the historical truth. One of the most persistent and damaging misconceptions about Ham stems from a literal and decontextualized interpretation of the curse uttered by Noah. Throughout history, many have assumed this curse applied to all of Ham's descendants, particularly those of African descent. This interpretation, however, disregards the cultural and literary context of the biblical text, as well as the complexities of ancient genealogies. As the age of exploration broadened the horizons of the known world, European explorers and colonizers encountered cultures and peoples vastly different from their own. Seeking to justify their perceived superiority and their right to dominate others, some turned to the story of Ham. The curse was conveniently twisted to serve as a divine justification for slavery and the oppression of African peoples. This distortion of the biblical narrative gained further traction during the transatlantic slave trade. Preachers and theologians, often aligned with economic and political interests, propagated the notion that Africans were the cursed descendants of Ham, destined by God for servitude. This interpretation not only deviated drastically from the original intent of the text, but also disregarded the rich diversity and history of the African people. The use of Ham's story to justify racism and oppression reached its zenith during the era of European colonialism in Africa. Missionaries, colonial administrators, and settlers often invoked the curse of Ham as a divine explanation for racial differences and as justification for their domination. This theological distortion became a powerful tool in upholding systems of exploitation and inequality. However, as critical biblical scholarship developed in the 19th and 20th centuries, these interpretations came under increasing scrutiny. Linguistic, historical, and archaeological analyses exposed the fallacy of associating Ham's curse with racial categories. It became increasingly evident that these interpretations were rooted more in the prejudices of their proponents than in a faithful reading of the biblical text. Deconstructing these historical misconceptions has been a long and arduous process. Theologians, historians, and religious leaders have worked tirelessly to rectify these distorted interpretations, emphasizing the fundamental unity of humanity and denouncing any attempt to use the Bible to justify racism or oppression. This process of re-evaluation has been critical not only for academic understanding, but also for healing the wounds of the past and fostering reconciliation. As Professor Bennett organizes her notes, she reflects on the profound importance of her work. Deconstructing the myths surrounding Ham is not merely an intellectual exercise. It is a crucial step towards rectifying historical injustices and cultivating a more nuanced and compassionate understanding of humanity. The true lesson of Ham's story, she concludes, is not about curses or racial distinctions, but about the complexities of human nature and the need to approach ancient texts with wisdom, empathy, and a keen awareness of their historical context. Theological reflection on Ham and his descendants. In the tranquil quietude of a centuries-old chapel, Reverend Michael Thompson contemplates the story of Ham and his descendants. The flickering candles cast dancing shadows on the weathered stone walls as he reflects on the timeless lessons this ancient narrative can offer our modern world. The story of Ham, so frequently misunderstood and misused, holds within it profound truths about the human condition, the power of divine grace, and the path towards reconciliation. Reverend Thompson is struck by the nature of Ham's sin. It was not an act of violence or a grand transgression. Rather, it was a moment of disrespect, a lack of compassion. This detail highlights a fundamental truth. Even seemingly small actions can have far-reaching consequences. Ham's story serves as a stark reminder that every act of kindness or cruelty, regardless of how insignificant it may seem, can shape the future in ways we cannot fully comprehend. Pondering the curse invoked by Noah, Reverend Thompson sees not an immutable divine decree, but a poignant reminder of the enduring power of words and actions to impact future generations. The narrative raises critical questions about individual and collective responsibility, challenging us to consider how the choices we make today will resonate in the lives of those who come after us. However, the story of Ham does not end with a curse. His descendants, like all of humanity, are part of the grand narrative of redemption. This realization emphasizes the boundless nature of God's grace, a grace that extends to all people, transcending ethnic, cultural, and historical boundaries. The inclusion of Ham's descendants in the story of salvation serves as a powerful testament to the expansive and all-encompassing nature of divine love. Ham's narrative also invites us to contemplate the theme of reconciliation. Just as the biblical narrative chronicles humanity's long journey toward redemption, it also compels us to seek healing and restoration within our own lives and communities. Ham's legacy reminds us that while the wounds of the past may run deep, the path to unity and understanding is always open to those who genuinely seek it. Perhaps one of the most important lessons to be gleaned from reflecting on Ham and his descendants is a call for theological humility. History cautions us against simplistic and literal interpretations of ancient texts, particularly when those interpretations are used to justify prejudice and oppression. We are challenged to approach Scripture with reverence, but also with a critical and compassionate mind, always seeking to understand the historical context and the intended spiritual message behind the words. Furthermore, Ham's story prompts a broader reflection on the interconnectedness of humanity. In a world still divided by race, ethnicity, and national borders, it reminds us of our shared origins and common destiny. It challenges us to look beyond superficial differences and recognize the inherent dignity and worth of every human being, regardless of their ancestry or origin. Ultimately, Reverend Thompson concludes that the true lesson of Ham's story lies not in past misinterpretations, but in the enduring call to live a life characterized by compassion, justice, and love. Ham's narrative invites us to become agents of healing and reconciliation, to work toward unity in the face of diversity, and to recognize the inherent value of each individual, regardless of their background or heritage. As the candles in the chapel gutter and fade, Reverend Thompson rises, his faith renewed by the conviction that even the oldest stories have the power to illuminate the path forward. The journey of Ham and his descendants, filled with complexity and controversy, testifies to humanity's ongoing search for understanding, forgiveness, and unity, a search that continues to challenge and inspire. Ham's story reminds us that the threads of history connect us all. By approaching this ancient narrative with open minds and compassionate hearts, we can glean wisdom and inspiration to guide us as we navigate the complexities of the present and build a more just and equitable future for generations to come. Thank you for accompanying us on this journey. We'd love to hear your views on today's story, so leave a comment below. For those who are passionate about diving into the secrets of the Bible, make sure to subscribe and continue with us as we explore this remarkable and somber past.